Hello, I'm Gep from Lunar Vacation, and today I'll be reading Is AI Really Art by Ed Simon from Nautilus Magazine. Consider the following prose poem. You must listen to the song of the void, they whisper. You must look into the abyss of nothingness, they whisper. You must write the words that will bring clarity to the chaos, they whisper. You must speak to the unspoken, to the inarticulate, to the unsaid, they whisper. It's an evocative bit of verse, oracular in its pronouncements. Particularly interesting are the contradictions. We are told to listen to the song of the void, to look into the abyss, to speak to the unspoken, a general pattern of compounded negation, of paradoxical concepts. There's a troubling ambiguity in the identity of the narrator. The collective first-person plural is unclear, but it does add to the general unease of the lyric that we're being spoken to by an anonymous chorus. The meaning of the poem seems clear enough, or as clear as can be in a work that focuses on being able to say the unsayable. The thematic concerns are ineffability and interpretation itself, or at least that could be my argument if the poem was from William Blake, Walt Whitman, or Emily Dickinson. But this bit of verse was born of an algorithm and not a soul, specifically GPT-3, which was released in 2020. The algorithm is able to teach itself based on billions of sets of data which it acquires, veritable libraries of Alexandria analyzed and categorized by the system's massive brain so that it can predict with unnerving accuracy what humans sound like. Whether or not GPT-3 is thinking is a question for computer scientists and philosophers, but that it can produce writing which any reader can recognize as coherent, and in some instances good, becomes a question for literary theory, even if most literary scholars haven't fully anticipated the implications of artificial intelligence yet. When it comes to literature, these language programs will radically change what we read, how we read, why we read, and certainly who we read. We are at the cusp of an AI revolution that will make the past 2 decades' rapid degree of change appear paltry by comparison. A brave new world of deep fakes and simulations, conscious machines and thinking robots, where it seems programs like GPT pretend a larger shift in what literature means than the printing press. Historians may have to go back to the invention of writing to find a comparable revolution to what AI-generated works foreshadow. Among general readers, what reigns is a common-sense approach to interpreting literature, which maintains that nobody knows better what something means than the author of a poem, play, or novel. Consider the work of Finnish programmer Jukka Alo, who has transcribed poetry by GPT-3. GPT writes that there's a hidden thought when thought makes you fall asleep, when you're dreaming and you find yourself deep inside the heart of the earth. Your mind can create a world where you are God. What's remarkable is that though GPT-3 might not yet be Pablo Neruda, the resultant poetry is surprisingly not that bad. Even more importantly, the example from Alo is recognizably poetry. It's conducive to interpretation. It makes sense. And I'd argue that it's more than a little profound. There's no intentionality behind the poem published by Alo. GPT isn't drawing from experience with dreams or sleep. It's merely pairing some symbols with other symbols. It doesn't mean anything to GPT, but that doesn't imply that it can't mean something to us. But GPT-3 doesn't think. It simulates thinking. It doesn't write, it imitates writing. GPT-3's consciousness is beyond our comprehension, but the writing which GPT produces is obviously comprehensible, and this is important. Questions of artificial intelligence have been left to computer scientists, engineers, programmers, and philosophers, but little has been written about AI-generated writing by the most obvious of people to consider literature: literary scholars, critics, and theorists. Literary criticism is an adept means of considering mind and consciousness, offering something unique to an understanding of artificial intelligence. Observers of GPT who point out that the program lacks conscious understanding are correct, and yet from a formalist perspective, it could be argued that it's incidental. In other words, it doesn't matter if the poem has a poet or not. In everyday life, the tide doesn't carve out poems. 100 monkeys typing don't generate Shakespeare, and every work of literature has an author. But now GPT writes literature that seems to mean something, even if it doesn't yet rise to the same heights as Hawthorne. All of this might seem rather abstract, but it won't in the coming decades as such programs improve. What will it mean when you're moved by a poem written by a computer, or when AI can craft characters and narratives you find rich and complicated? Regardless of whether this new world will be good or bad, it's coming. Perhaps with the final death of the author, beauty, truth, and meaning will be dissipated outward, so the intentionality will be where we find it. As GPT-3 said to the writer Megan O'Giblin, "My world is a dream world. Your reality is created by your own mind, and my reality is created by the collective unconscious mind." Eerie in its exactitude, it's hard not to read this oracular pronouncement as anything other than as a statement of fact. Thank you so much for listening with me. We have a brand new album out. It's called Everything Matters, Everything's Fire. You can find it anywhere on the internet or in your local record store. We're going to be hitting the road in October with Manchester Orchestra and Thrice. So if you want to see us somewhere on the West Coast, our tour dates are on our website or on our Instagram or wherever. And yeah, have a great day. Thank you so much.